Hello everyone, what's up? We are continuing our video series on winning in the closed Sicilian, and we left off in our last video dealing with systems involving the move knight f3. Now, for those of you who are new to this channel, there's a whole entire playlist just dedicated to this particular opening. So if you're interested in learning this opening, which is good, if I might add, for avoiding extensive theory in the Sicilian dragon as well as the knight off, the closed Sicilian um, is an effective opening that can pack some punch in the middle game as well as give you a decent chance in the ending also. Besides, there are a lot of games by high-level grandmasters in the past and even top grandmasters in our present time. Okay, so the game we're going to look at today is from Amsterdam, 1981. Jan Timman, who was ranked as high as number 3 in the world in the 80s, I believe, is going against Polugaevsky with the black pieces. So in this time period, these two grandmasters were, if memory serves correctly, were definitely in the top 10 in the world at the time. So again, Timon with the white pieces, Polugaevsky with the black pieces. So Polugaevsky, I believe the author of the book Sicilian Love, was an avid Sicilian defense player and uh, a theoretician, and is responsible for the Polugaevsky variation in the knight off. So here we have it. E4, C5, knight C3. Timon is having none of the theory and goes into the closed Sicilian. So knight C6 and knight F3. Knight F3 is counterintuitive for closed Sicilian players because one of the main ideas of the closed Sicilian is to leave the F pawn unblocked so that you have the option of playing the move F2 to F4. All right. So just by its very nature, the move knight F3 uh, has transpositional possibilities, which might not be to everyone's taste. However, uh, players that are employing the closed Sicilian will use the move knight f3 in order to try to trick their opponent using various move orders in order to try to, for instance, get black to avoid their main defense to the closed Sicilian, perhaps. So by feigning like you're going to go into a full-on open Sicilian, you might get black to go into a variation that he might not normally play against the closed Sicilian. So there is ideas behind these type of moves. All right, and it usually has to do with move order and basically trying to trick your opponent out of his comfort zone here. So this is why we see the move knight f3 in a closed Sicilian. E6, G3, knight f6, bishop g2, d6, castles, bishop e7. All right. So now here's an example of what I mean. Normally, you would probably see black playing for this fianchetto on the king side. Usually the bishop is still here, and you get this g6 and bishop g7. All right. However, with this move order that white played, if black plays the move g6 right here, right, with this idea, then you have the knight is already on f3, and white can just play d4 right here, and then say after here, then you have this weak d pawn to worry about as black. So this is, a good idea, illustration rather, of why certain moves that seem counterintuitive are played. So now he has Polugaevsky, in a different situation that he would find himself in if White had just opted to just go into the closed Sicilian proper. Bishop e7, d3, and of course, again, if you want to go in the Skyfinagin variation, it would just be d4. C takes d4, knight takes d4, and you're in the regular Sicilian. Of course, I think right here, Timman is trying to avoid the vast theoretical knowledge of Polugaevsky. So he avoids these things, keeps the position closed. d3, castle, bishop f4. Okay. Now, since the bishop is on e7, White can't go for his traditional method of exchanging these two bishops off that he would normally use when the bishop is on g7. When the bishop is fianchettoed on g7, you normally see this plan with queen d2. Bishop will be here on e3 or sometimes g5, and then you get the bishop coming to h6 at some point and just trading off. Here it's a little bit more difficult. Okay, so with that plan out, White just simply develops his pieces to a decent square. So there's nothing, no big deal about bishop f4, but just developing at this point. Bishop d7, h3, typical move. Knight comes to d4, knight takes d4, c takes d4, knight e2. So we see black takes on some structural weakness in order to gain space and some potential active placement on the king side, queen side. I'm sorry, knight e2, e5, hitting the bishop, bishop d2, and natural move rook c8. And now we see c3 immediately attacking the advanced pawn. D takes, and now the bishop comes to c3. All right. So now, again, we see that this bishop has a new job. First it was on f4, it was driven away, and now has a new opportunity elsewhere on the board. Now the idea is to continue to attack the black center, and again in the closed Sicilian, the thematic move f4 is one of the main ideas here. Bishop c6, f4 now, queen b6 check. The king hides, and now knight d7, queen d2, connecting the rooks back here. Bishop to f6, and again we can see Polugaevsky strong pointing this e5 square, and if White is to have a successful attack, he must try to break this strong point down on e5. So we see the war is waging around this square now. g4, knight comes to c5, and now g5, driving away one of the protectors of e5. Bishop e7. Now knight g3, queen to d8, h4, and now e takes f4, and knight f5. And now, just like that, you have this sudden attack on a g7 square. So f6. Now, normally you wouldn't want to weaken your king side there as black, and you would prefer to play a move like knight e6, which is a simple piece move that seems to keep everything intact. But then d4 is a very uncomfortable move with the idea of just playing d5 next. Therefore, we see f6, knight takes e7, queen takes e7, and of course removing the defender of this square, or one of the defenders rather. G takes f6, and rook takes f6. Of course, again, black doesn't want to have to make this move, but when faced with the bad alternatives, you have to do that at times. Now, after G takes F6, for instance, you have three pieces bearing down on the F6 square. So, the lesser of two evils, rook takes F6, queen takes F6, and now rook takes, and queen D4. The rook comes to D1, protecting the D3 square. Knight E6, rook F5, G6, rook drops back to F2. And now comes D5, E takes, and some more trades. And queen E3, knight G7, D4, and knight F5. Now, black fought very valiantly to try to keep this position, but he wound up losing in 59 moves, and so we're gonna call it right, right about here. I'll play a few more moves. Of course, the thread here, and just summarize Timman's main approach in this game, facing an expert in this particular opening, and perhaps you can take some of the same strategy. And basically, like I said, this game went on 59 moves, and Timman just squeezed Polugaevsky little by little. So we're going to end this game right here, but what can we take? Let's just summarize it real quick. Of course, we had a closed Sicilian, but instead of your typical G3, Bishop G2, D3, etc., and then finally playing the move F4, keeping the F pawn blocked, we see an early blockage of the F pawn, which again, if you're planning on playing the closed Sicilian, would seem counterintuitive, but understand that there is a method to the madness, that you're just not someone who doesn't know what they're doing, as a lot of people might do, but you're searching and probing your opponent to see what kind of responses he's going to make. You're basically digging for information when you do something like that. Okay? You've already saying, hey, equalize the position. It's okay. You're not trying to claim any advantage right out of the opening, but all you're doing is just probing for information. Okay, I'm going to play this move, knight F3. And now, of course, Polugaevsky has to think, does this guy want to just transpose in the open Sicilian? Did he, just sleep, and just forget about that he's playing the closed Sicilian? It just, gives your opponent something to think about. And we can see as the game went on, Polugaevsky had every intention on playing the closed Sicilian. But however, by his clever move order, he was able to get Polugaevsky out of his normal, approach as black to the closed Sicilian. Perhaps G6, Bishop, G7, etc. is his normal approach, but we already demonstrated that in this position, G6 would be met by D4. So that's the basic lesson of this system, is that knight F3 is designed to basically get more information and, get your opponent in perhaps a move, order, or variation that he would not normally play against the closed Sicilian. So good game by Timman. He made it look very easy, and of course there you see the F4 finally being employed, and the same idea. So White took a little longer to start his attack, but nevertheless you see the same thematic attack on the king side occur. Just know that knight F3 is a little slower than the main lines, but just as effective as you saw in this game. So I hope you enjoyed that. Please like, subscribe, check the links below. There's all kind of like books. The book that this commentary is based on is in the link. So check that out. Also check the DVDs Usually I post things directly related to the opening that we're talking about, and also please donate and support the channel. That would be greatly appreciated. That way we can step up our output and quality of the videos. Any questions or comments, just leave them below. And again, thanks for listening. And we have a few more games to go. And we're almost done with this closed Sicilian. Then you'll have a uh, completed playlist with everything you need to know about winning in this opening. So I'll see you on the next video.